Good, okay, so yeah, what I'm going to invite you to do is talk to each other, and the focus I'm going to give you is paying attention, like in terms of awareness to um, what you feel internally, and then in relation to each other, what your response is to each other, positive, negative, articulate what you experience in relation to each other, and then perhaps some curiosity of each other, something particular that you're interested in that you want to ask each other about. And as far as possible, I want to encourage this into the contact boundary, that is sort of the present experience of this, or the meeting of each other, less about there may be some relevance in stories from somewhere else, from your other experience or something, but I'm going to encourage you to keep bringing that back into this process. And so that's as much structure as I'm going to give. I will come in and kind of support you to sort of keep focused on what I'm calling the contact boundary, the coming into contact with each other.
This feels uncomfortable because I'm just thinking, okay, so how we start the conversation out of nothing, Like what do we say to each other to start a conversation?
Well, I'm encouraging you maybe to start with your feelings. Just tune in for each of you and locate those. You don't have to think about what you might say, what you might be interested, but just start from the what is, what you do experience, and share something of that with each other.
I'm feeling really full from lunch. Had a big lunch.
I'm feeling more grounded since I ate. Just blood. Feel a little bit more alert and not in the clouds. More grounded.
There you
I was just noticing your socks that I was wondering if they're inside out.
go. They probably are. It's a rush this morning.
Socks.
Something I do, I just scan the environment. It's like
I did enjoy our discussion at lunch, though, about yoga and your teachings that you took, and I was very enjoyed it. Just easier to flow at lunch, probably. You can talk about food, and then one thing leads to another, and it's easier.
Yeah, well, there's a bit more face to face. So what I'm inviting you to do is to take a plunge in, and it's not so much about other things. It's more about, let's say, your experience with each other. So, for instance, when you look at each other, you look at one person, you look at another person, you're going to have different experiences. So I invite you to kind of look at each other and notice what the experience is that you have. How does this in-person impact on me? What do I feel with this person? And maybe express something about that to each other. As I sit here with you, my experience is.
Okay.
well, as I sit here with you, I mean, from before as well, it's like, but looking at your face, somehow it reminds me of my family from my mother's side, like my mother's face and her brother's face. It's almost like it feels like you feel like you could have been from my side of the family, you know.
I might be.
Yeah, who knows?
They're from the Peloponnese, my people, my family, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my grandmother was from there.
See?
Okay.
Interesting.
Got you, yeah.
Yeah, they're from Kalitheia, a little
I
village.
don't remember the name of the village.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. To just feel like, it feels like at home, you know, to have your brother or your cousins around you, you know, so that's very familiar.
Yeah,
Feeling.
Yeah, it's but it's also facial characteristics that
Mhm.
reminds me. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, there's a feeling of familiarity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm just enjoying being in both of y'all's presence. I saw you're authentic and unique and honest, and it's enjoyable to be in your presence. Mm-hmm.
My experience of you is sort of this, like, I mean, I feel like a motherly, kind of protective energy, almost like I feel I could be protected by you, and you know, like what you were sharing at lunch was, like I was like, I want to know more, like teach me, and that's what I'm experiencing.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I wish I had a beautiful daughter.
So tell her the feelings when you say that.
Oh. It's very, I just feel this overwhelming feeling of love to be a mother. And for that, for that energy to be acknowledged. It's like happy, you know, crying happy, like you want to just cry because it feels good. Not because there's any sadness in it, but because it's happy. You know. It's a beautiful part of being a human being and having this experience in this body this time. And my grandson's named Teddy. Theodore. So it makes you wonder, like, oh, what is he going to grow up to be? I wonder if he'll be, you know, what will he look like?
So you have a son.
A son, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so there was a couple of moments there when you really stepped into your feeling and you know, shared that. So if you're willing to, I invite you to stay with that a little longer, to see if that's okay with you, both of you, just to stay with that feeling in connection with Danielle. And kind of enjoy it, or see if it's difficult, breathe. Just let yourself really be present with what you told her. Come into this moment. See what it's like to sit here with her, the daughter you might have had, and with the feelings that you have right now as you're with her. All the shades that they are in those feelings. Breathe and just be with the feelings and be with her and see what this is like.
Definitely makes your heart pound.
Tell her.
Yeah, it makes my heart pound to feel mother-daughter energy. You know, mother-son energy is different than mother-daughter energy.
In what way?
Well, it's masculine, feminine, but it's also like your daughter's having the experience of being a woman, which is your experience in this body. So you're, you know, it's like a mirror. And with a son, you know, it's still mother-child energy, but you don't really know what he's going through in his body, whereas you know, you have similar feelings as a woman, you know, as your daughter might have. and my son he's difficult. He's a difficult person. So but his wife is really sweet. So I feel like she's my daughter, you know. And so yeah, having that beautiful daughter energy, that feminine connectivity, it's very powerful, I feel. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling. Yeah.
I like that you were talking about yoga,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of embody this kind of parent that I sort of wanted, because my parents weren't. I mean, my mom wasn't really into like yoga and spiritual path so much. So
Yeah.
I can relate on how it could have been, or yeah, it could have been like.
Is there a longing there for that, or yeah?
It's like a guide, role
Yeah.
model. Instead, I feel like I'm teaching them. My parents.
Saying that, my mother was very childish too. I always felt like I was her mother. She was, everyone loves her because she's playful and loving and kind and generous. Yeah. There was a part of me that was like, I wish she was more grown up. Yeah.
What do you feel like you missed out on not having a daughter?
It's hard to say, but because I didn't have it, but
Yeah.
Well, I feel like women can talk to each other. Like there's a flow of communication that's sometimes just easier between women with each other. But that could just be my own stuff. But I see it with my girlfriends. It's so much easier if I get together with a group of women. We're just talking, and just feelings, whatever's coming out. But if it's with a group of men, it's not necessarily talking about our feelings, or just day-to-day, things. It's a heavier type of conversation. So maybe that's what I missed out on. One of the things. And of course, it was beautiful to watch a son grow up and become a man. It would have been beautiful to watch, a daughter or girl grow up and become a woman. And go out into the world,
So come back into this moment and just notice for both of you what you feel in this moment. Share that with each other.
I feel a pain in my heart.
That's funny. I feel a lot of love. It's almost like I want to love you like a daughter, Yeah. I feel a lot of love.
I also feel love too, but I just noticed that. And sharp.
Sadness or emptiness or
I can't distinguish it. Just pain there.
So breathe with that and stay present with each other. Look at each other maybe and just really stay in this moment, this vulnerable, slightly painful, poignant moment with each other, and stay as present as you can.
It's easy because she's so beautiful.
Tell her directly, you.
I said you are so beautiful. It's easy to stay connected to you. Yeah.
It's funny because I feel exactly the same about you. And when you're getting out of the car earlier, I was like, oh, there's like a beautiful, well put together woman. Like I'm sure she's coming to this. Like, it was just really funny, and I just thought you were so gorgeous. So it's funny.
Do you want to have children? You don't know.
I don't know. I probably will down the road.
I'm sure you'll make a beautiful mother.
Thank you. It's funny doing all the inner work over the last few years and having all the realizations about the parents, and it's just like, do I really want to do this to myself?
You definitely make a lot of mistakes.
Right.
Mm.
You don't have any regrets about having kids, do you?
No. Mm-mm. About working too much, but not about having children.
How's it for you, listening and being on the edge of this? And
I'm happy to give them space. It's wonderful to see the connection.
And maybe if you're willing to share something with both of them about what's going on for you, or where this touches you, or where it takes you.
I was feeling a bit out of the scene, like an observer. It just felt like a connection between them two. So just happy to observe. There was nothing much going on other than that. Just see the exchange of recognition. I was wondering, because you were looking at me from time to time, if you were thinking like you're excluding me or anything like that. But that was my thinking.
No, I had more of like a son feeling, like, because like my son is watching me while I'm talking to
my
daughter. Yeah. And I didn't want him to get jealous because I wanted a daughter or something. That was coming up like, I hope my son's not jealous that I wanted a daughter and I didn't have. I wish I would have had a daughter as well, type thing. Yeah.
So is there something that evokes in you, or that you connect to about, your experience of being a son, or, is there something in that sort of...
No.
Something you want to share?
I mean, I have a sister. I have a sister, and no, I didn't bring anything up because I felt my mother gave equal attention to both of us. So I didn't have anything coming up. I mean, there was a thought, like I was keep checking, do I feel excluded just being on the side? But I didn't, the response was, no, it's okay, just enjoy this. So I was keep checking myself because I felt the circle. So I just keep checking, but no, I was okay with it. I was kind of liking it.
Again, I invite you to really come into the present with each other and notice what it's like to sit with each other, what your experience is with this person, these individuals, and how that impacts on you.
We have been a few days together, and we went to the other workshop as well. And yeah, it has been fun.
You'd think I'd be so sick of you by now.
I enjoyed it, yeah. I enjoyed the comedy. It's kind of easy interaction. I enjoy your presence, and yeah, we had some good laughs.
I was wondering if that would have been a funner, a better experience without me, or with just, because I almost didn't come, or I was maybe not going to come. You were going to go by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
was hoping it was better. But.
Yeah, I think so. Right. Yes, definitely.
Good.
Definitely. No worry about that. No, I think I just said it before you asked. It was fun. Easy to travel with. Having fun.
Same.
And so what about right now? If you come into this moment, what's your experience right now? Say, traveled a little bit, done some things.
I adore her.
She's
adorable. You're adorable. Yeah. I keep having sometimes the image of like little teddy bear, like I want to hug you all the time. I don't know you that well. Yeah.
I love it. I feel very safe with you. I guess that's general, but I do here too. Like I feel, I guess again protection. I guess a little bit, but yeah, protected. Like you would have my back.
Well, I do have very strong protector qualities,
Oh, there you go.
That's one of my archetypes, let's
Okay.
say. Yeah, well, I take care of people.
Yeah. So there's a deep trust without having known you for that long. Very deep trust.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I don't trust everyone that fast. So.
Oh, thanks.
I also, my experience is I wonder if there's somewhere else you'd rather be, or if you're like tired from lunch or something.
Tired for lunch? No, sleepy.
Sleepy.
Yes. I'll stay awake. Slapping is permitted. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it is a bit uncomfortable. It's like because it's just there's no subject to buffer the interaction. It's just looking at the person and directly speaking about the experience of being with someone else, which I don't have a problem to do when I feel like it, but if it's artificial, makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of enjoy connecting with people, and often I have to hold myself back because I'm more tactile. I want to hug people to be more physical. So yeah, it's my experience usually of connection is like with the people I like to connect with, like I feel kind of rapport or whatever. It's like I have to hold myself back because I can behave like we're friends for longer, like I know you longer than, because that's how I feel, but that's not always
that person's experience.
Yeah.
So bring that into the present, and maybe if you're willing to share to what degree you're holding yourself back right now.
Huh.
You just want to tickle me, don't you?
Well, yeah, it's like a lot for my interaction with people is play,
So tell her directly right now, what you're holding back. Like right now.
Play. I'm holding back play, I always hold back play in when I feel comfortable with people, and it's like play for me, like physical play is a first way to relate with you, yes too. you kind of hug well. I know you do. He knows how to hug you. So yeah, and that's why I relate very well with kids, because then there's not that buffer. Like kids, the minute you make the connection, you go to play. You don't have to talk about it and what you do.
So if you're willing to come forward a little bit more, it's a little safer here, with some of
Come out, you mean I'm coming out.
what would your impulse be with each of these women? What if you were not to hold back, like right now? What's the impulse?
I don't know. Here now we're sitting on a chair. It's difficult. Okay. It's like it wouldn't be anything different than what it is right now.
Right.
But if it's just to meet in space, after the first hello and stuff like that, I need more physical contact.
So tell them what that might look like. Give them a picture.
Huh. The distance of sitting close, touching sometimes when you talk, or like as you move your mouth, you move your hands, and or you interact like this.
So how was that for you when he just touched you? Give him some feedback.
It was great, and I think I hold back too. Like, I mean, I guess we're doing the present moment, so. But I think I'm similar, and I hold back because I'm always afraid. I'm always afraid of what people will think, But I mean, with people I'm close with, like I'm very huggy and touchy too. But I notice I also do that. A deep secret. Yeah, right.
So if you didn't hold back now, what would your impulse be?
I probably, like just touch more too. Same. Yeah.
You this too?
Yeah. And a tickle. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And you? Or are you with physical? Like,
I would say I'm probably less, playful, and less I know the people, unless I've already gotten to know them.
Yeah.
I'm not, even though I have to feel like I'm family with people first. I have to have a familiar family feeling before I'm playful, touchy, this and that. But I do enjoy that. I love that, But when I'm with family or with friends that I'm that close to, but I have to have a feeling, a closer feeling before I can do that. It's very hard for me with people that I don't know to just be playful instantly.
Oh yeah. I don't want to. For me,
you
as well.
probably could do it though.
Yeah, but I need to feel the rapport. Like I need to feel the connection. So sometimes connection for me takes a while to get to know the person, of course. To get used to their presence, and other times it happens like this. Like I just like someone and I just can play.
Right.
Or I just.
Yeah.
It's a good way to relate for me.
I like that.
It gets confusing for me to get to relate with what you do. It's like how with the adult conversation starts. It's like what's your name, what you do. It's like
Have you always been like that, where it takes, it's kind of guarded, or? And maybe
Probably
it's
not.
that, but,
Probably when I was younger, probably not. Probably now, and maybe also living in a big city too. Definitely when I'm in New Orleans, which is where I'm from, or the South, people are more, hi, darling, how you doing? What can I do for you? What else can I do for you? What else can I do for you? They're more friendly and giving, and we're here. It's everybody's sort of self-contained. That's what it feels like to me. So probably when I was younger, I was more just outgoing, and now I feel more reserved.
Right.
Yeah. It might be age too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Age with experiences or something.
You remind me of something. So I remember once I was around 27, and I was thinking to myself around that period, it's like I must be getting older. I don't enjoy going out and dancing so much. The clubs.
Yeah.
And it's within that period that I'm thinking about that, because all my friends come out and say, no, I can't go to that club. And so I'm coming back from home. From being out somewhere, and I want to stop in another club, and it's like 1 a.m. And I'm just like, the moments that you cannot open your eyes, like you go to lethargy.
Right.
I say I have to stop to say hi. There's some very good friends in there, so I go in, and I still remember the name of Danny Tenaglia was playing music, and my whole being woke up and started dancing, and it was 5:30 in the morning. I haven't stopped. I said, please put one song, and I was warning my friends, if one song I don't like comes, I'm gonna get out of here just really fast. So And then when I came out of that club, I said, "Wow, I'm not getting old. It's just the music wasn't so good until now."
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just reminded me that he said I'm old. Yeah, never too old for a mudslide.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because my experience of you is that I just want to like come and like squish you and shake you up, you know, and just be like, like give you love and yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true because the past several years I've spent so much time alone. That probably has a lot to do with it too.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I've been sort of hibernating,
Right.
going
Makes sense.
inward.
Yeah.
You know. So. But but when you say that, it cracks me up because if you really knew that there was this, wild dancing Greek inside of me,
Right. Right. I haven't seen that yet.
yeah. So it's funny for me to, but I understand it because even like my mother's family's English, they're British, so they're all very reserved.
Proper.
Yeah, Whereas my Greek family, like and screaming, and crying, and crashing, and banging, and
Yeah, I'm gonna say that reminds me.
One minute you're mad, you hate, and then the next minute you're crying and you're hugging and kissing. And,
Give you so much trouble when you're abroad. That.
So I guess I have those two people inside me.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe more.
I never had that experience with my family. It was just
No.
pretty emotionally neutral. No anger, no this, no no like it was just very. So maybe that's what I see in you. We're always mirrors of each other.
Oh
and
yeah.
So I'm trying to do work to shake my own self up. So it's probably yeah.
Well, that's good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time to come out of the cave, probably.
So, in a way, you're coming out of the cave right now,
Right.
in some ways.
Right.
So how is that? Give them some feedback about it. What's it like to be coming out of your cave from your being by yourself period?
Well, you feel
Yeah.
kind of like, the bear that's been in hibernation. They're just messy and, just sort of stepping out very cautiously, sort of half asleep, half awake.
The opposite. The bear is coming out really groomed.
I know. I'm thinking
He's gonna get really messy. Otherwise, gonna do this.
mess her up.
That could be happening too. Inside, that's how I feel, but maybe outside is different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it feels good. It feels good, and it's also good to be, for me to hear that someone actually sees me that way. Like they need to shake me or something. I don't really feel like I need that, but maybe that's what someone's picking up on, or that maybe the way I'm posturing myself or something without even realizing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe you can give her a bit more detail. Like what is it that makes you want to shake her up, or what is? Do you see some stiffness or some formality? What is it? Tell her a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of both, like stiffness and your movements, carefulness, and formality to a point where maybe I could get in more with you if there wasn't quite such. Maybe I don't know if it's caution or something, and I'm guessing maybe that's just because of the whole transition and coming back out now, and maybe there's just like I think you said careful. You're being careful as you're coming out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me of when I was little, and at some point I started to become aware of how I was being and how other people saw me. And I think my mom said one time, you were like walking into school, but you were very careful about the way you were walking,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. But I started to realize, okay, yeah, before that, I was just very free flowing second grader, and then I went to a new school the next year, and then became more cautious, like just kind of, and
more careful.
More careful.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't quite so, which isn't always bad, but you just, to
Yeah.
make sure you have that in a balance. So that's kind of the image I got. Because I also see a very beautiful grace in you, and just the way you, because it is beautiful the way you carry yourself, and I know other people who are just like wild, and it's like, okay, so it's just, but then there's also the
Right.
it's maybe too stiff or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's valuable to hear that.
Okay.
I don't really know how to yet, how to not be as reserved yet.
Sure.
Have you tried Uzo?
Yes, I have. It makes me sick.
Just checking.
But probably movement just came to my mind. Yeah, because I've tried Uzo and wine and vodka.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what that was.
Usually I just go to sleep. That doesn't help.
Yeah.
But probably dance sounds good. Just some type of like intense movement.
Have you done 5 rhythms before?
No, what's that?
It's amazing. You just go dance however.
Oh,
Everyone
okay.
just freestyle dance.
Oh, I have done. Like, we called it transcendental or something.
Okay.
Trans dance.
Okay.
We used to call it.
Probably something like that.
We call it buzuki where I come from.
Yeah.
We break plates sometimes too, but always.
Yeah.
I don't need the bazooki to show plays. Just duck. I do feel more comfortable with people from, different ethnic groups. I definitely, maybe that's because of my upbringing, as being around a big Greek family. So I feel more open because it's familiar to me. So if I'm in with a room of Greeks, I'm just open, or French or Italian or, even Germans. I mean, it's just a different, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that has something to do with it too.
I definitely
Yeah.
change the way I am
Yeah.
when I'm with people abroad, and when I'm gonna get in trouble if I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah, it allows it.
Yeah.
It's like the culture of people allows it. You can speak more directly without being told you patronize them, because if they don't like what you say,
Right.
they're gonna say no. They're gonna say, "Are you patronizing me?"
Right.
That's the English style.
Yeah.
The Greek style says, "No, I don't want to."
Yeah.
It's just no attachment to that.
Right. And also, we rarely talk about jobs or money or those things. We're talking about world. We just dive in to world issues or this or that or whatever. We never say, where do you work, where do you live, what kind of car do you drive. Okay, bye. That's not how we talk. So sometimes I'm not at a loss to know what to talk about, but sometimes I am. I don't really know what, unless I'm in a familiar group of people where we just don't talk about those things. That's not of interest to us,
So then what about here? Because here we've got the little mix or
Yeah.
Greek thing. So what if you bring that description of comfort or whatever, just notice how exactly that is here and now.
Well, definitely, your the exercise of opening up is definitely helping. Yeah.
But you're talking specifically about the ethnic or the Greek or something. So I'm asking about now,
With this group.
with this group,
Well,
with
yeah.
these people.
It's like I believe that you understand and he understands. I think she does. But she said that when she started opening up to me, then then I'm like, okay, she understands. You know? But before that, I'm not quite sure. Does that make any sense? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to talk about after somebody says, "What's your job?"
Right.
What do you talk about after that? So, this is interesting. I think the exercise of all of this, of opening up, is like bringing it up for me more and more and more. That could be a big part of it for me.
Well, this morning in the session we were talking about the world and the connection with the world, so I'm wondering, if that's like a place of connection for you too, given that you're talking about that. Well, that's an easier place to go, so I'm wondering, Theo, how that is. Gauge that right now.
What do you mean?
Well, because he raised the theme about the world and sort of going to that place as compared to the straitjacket of the city,
right?
And the job and everything.
Yeah.
So that was clearly a theme that he was raising, and so I'm kind of interested in connecting you up with that theme, because you've also named something about it's more comfortable or something to go with that as a place of connection,
as a place of conversation. Yeah. Yeah, to just understand someone is what I'm saying. Is to get to know someone is to understand their philosophical thinking, as opposed to their job.
Right. So then I invite you to do a little piece of that right now. Okay. Because there's an opportunity.
I see what you're saying.
And you explicitly named that as well as the same background. So what's one piece of that would be kind of, you'd have some energy for, and that's how you really like to connect. I'm inviting you to do that now.
Okay. Yeah, we did a little bit of that at lunchtime. We were talking about the world and politics of the world, and how to just be a human being at this time, and what path do you choose, and how do you stay on that path, and how do you live your life.
Okay, so maybe you could say something personal about that. Maybe you did already, but I'm inviting particularly to you to name for that the topic, but something about you in there in a very personal way, where you can kind of connect you as the person with the bigger picture with these people. Okay,
well, for me, we were talking about yoga in particular, and I would say that yoga, I didn't really knowingly choose to take a path of yoga, but definitely I got on the path of yoga, and then that's been my road, that's been my path. So in other words, not necessarily the physical postures of yoga, but just the philosophy of yoga. So that's another way to connect with people too, for me, and to connect with people in the world.
Around philosophy,
the philosophy of yoga, it always brought me, if I got off the path too far, I'm like, okay, I'm too far away. I need to get back on that path. So that's how I kind of, maybe that helped me to become it did help me to become an adult, or to mature on this path of, using yoga as my vehicle, as my car, basically, or as my road. And then always, I don't know, I guess discussing the philosophy of the world and what's going on in the world, and then using it as a reflection back on, like I said earlier, on myself. Okay, so I can't fix the whole world, but I can fix myself. I can start here, What are a few little things I can do every day to be, and even though I know that, it's good to be reminded of it. So that's, and maybe that's how maybe that's how I am able to open up to you all too. It's just that understanding of taking the path of yoga, or the teachings of yoga, or Vedanta, or whatever it is. Yeah.
I think now that you're speaking, I'm trying to think some things. Is a lot of the way I'm used to relate with friends is through emotion. Now we can be talking about work, or talking about relationship, or we can talking about politics. But in the way I relate with my Greek friends, let's say, it's a lot about communicating the emotion of the situation. Either be how it is about work. It's not about how we'll make it, but it's like here will be the conversations, like how we can collaborate, how we can do this, how we can do that.
Right.
Which is great. It's like that's missing from my country. But what we do there is mostly we talk about feelings.
Yeah.
Like we talk a lot about feelings.
Oh, okay. So then, right now, if you were to bring yourself in and talk about your feelings in relation, for instance, to what she was saying, what?
Okay, so it will be the showing emotion around when I agree with you or not. Like I'll change my tone of voice and say, no, it's like this guy, this guru. That's like, what are you talking about? He did this and this and this. So no, but he was a good teacher. But it will be, there will be intensity in the conversation.
Right.
Which I can see that people, like outside, not everybody, but a lot of that in England and here as well, like people will rather not talk than if I get upset about if I express disagreement with an intense way, If I agree with them, it's fine. But if I don't agree, or even if I raise my voice suddenly because I feel more passionate about it, even that can be sometimes, oh, are you angry? I said, no. Or,
That's why I went into my cave.
Okay, because the way you were...
Because the reaction of people every time you feel you're talking in a passionate way.
Yeah, shut down.
They run.
Yeah.
Great, so here's an opportunity. You've got someone who's into that, and there's like a little space here where you could like explore.
Yeah, tell me about these people. I'm frustrated with them too,
But I don't like to talk. I mean that I catch myself using general terms, but.
Okay, but maybe you can say something specific to like you're talking, making a broader statement about yoga and your path and things.
Right.
So pick something specific that you feel, a bit juicy about, or strongly about, or excited about, or opinionated about. That's a little bit of the color of you within this thing that matters to you.
Well, if you get me started, I can't stop.
Yes, but we're not asking to stop. We're just asking to start.
Well, the thing is, it's not just about the stopping. It's not just about the stopping. It's about the experience of some space here to be a little more fully yourself.
Don't mention any names because it's on video.
I understand that, but for me, it's more organic than that.
Yeah.
You started at lunch.
Yeah, we started at lunch.
Sure.
The music, the
yogi.
But it's not the conversation. It's not just the conversation. It's like the color you put in. Like it's like when it becomes personal, and it's not personal. It's your freaking team, But it's personal now.
Yeah.
So you don't take my team is better than yours,
Anyone that talks like they're on Fox News sends me to the moon and back.
Okay, so tell us.
That's what Fox is about. Maybe I should start watching it.
So even though it's not completely spontaneous, I am inviting you to reach into your basket and pull out something. Because there's some space here to explore and experiment with that, and some maybe more receptivity, to talk about one of these things in your basket of excitements about yoga or something that's kind of got some juice for you that would maybe be cool to have a bit more oomph about with people.
New Age gurus, maybe.
Well, we did kind of get into that at the table. We were talking about yoga, and this, I was saying that I started yoga when you were a weirdo if you did yoga. So, but there were very few, we talked about this at lunch, there were so few teachers. So now there's all these aerobic teachers and dance teachers, and everyone's trying to be a spiritual teacher. And they're like 25 years old, and they took, one teacher training class. And
so what's your feeling about that?
Oh, I get upset about it. I definitely dug into that and got upset about it. Not overly upset because I'm still not out of my cave, but come on up. Well, so that's one thing, but I mean, just on a daily basis, every day things are just send me to the moon and back. with what's going on in the world, whether it's Syria and all the refugees coming in through Greece and the way people talk about them, and and then I put it in a historic context, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the story of every single immigrant everywhere, Everybody's using them as a scapegoat, and they burned. I mean, I was reading about the Greeks in the United States. They burned down whole cities, and this is, everyone had to leave. They were killing them. It's the same story, whether you were Japanese or you were Chinese or you were even Irish, So yeah, that's one of the things that just makes me crazy on a daily basis when you see all this madness, just bombing a country to smithereens, and what do you expect the people just to sit there, and just say, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
You expect them to fight you back and then call them terrorists.
Yeah, or leave, pick up your wife and your kids and leave with the clothes on your back. So, and whatever, it's got to be better than this. So that. Yeah.
So see if you can enunciate a little bit the feeling that you have as you're talking about this. Like, what is the feeling, or the mix of feelings? Like, see if you can name them a little more.
The feelings,
like in your body. Right now, as you talk about this, the history and.
Well, it's frustration, anger, compassion. It makes me happy when I see that there are people that are like really standing up and saying, okay, there's people, knitting hats for them and putting packages together for them and welcoming them and kind of going out of their way to welcome people. So it's, then I just again, go back and put it into context. What can I do? What can I do today? What can I do in my own life every day? What's one little thing I could do? Yesterday I was sitting somewhere, and I started talking to these people that were beside me. There were 3 black men, and one of them just told me, thank you so much for talking to us. Like they were 3 great big guys. I think they were gay, but I'm not sure. But they kind of look a little. They look scary, actually. But I don't know where I'm from. I'm from a city that's 70% black. So to me that's normal to see black people everywhere. So anyway, I don't know why I got off on that, but
you were saying you were
just saying in my own life what I can do. So whether it's, I didn't even realize that that's what was happening, but that's what was happening. I didn't realize that they had been I didn't know their experience that they had. They weren't from here, they were just visiting. So I didn't know that they had this experience of like, people like, we gotta be afraid of them, People, they saw fear in people's eyes.
Okay, so that's great. Yeah. You've shared a bunch of things.
Right.
So then, I'm inviting you to respond not just to the content, but like also, especially the parallel of, well, what are the feelings that get evoked in you as you listen to her talk? See if you can kind of give that track.
I don't know, when I hear stories like that, I want to just challenge the world,
Yeah.
It's like, it's amazing. Like, you're talking to 3 guys, and they're nice people, and they're thanking you for talking to them,
Basically.
Yeah, that's it shouldn't be happening.
I know, I was embarrassed, but
I'll go more in the frustration part.
Yeah.
I go, what? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that particular piece evoked just like sadness to me too, because I just don't understand why the country is so segregated racially and gender and all the different separations that there are, and I just don't get why we can't all just talk to each other and why it exists. So sadness comes up. But I also notice for me, when you speak about being frustrated and all these things, I suppose it's probably because of my upbringing, but I want to go crawl in a hole. I don't want, you know what I mean? Like frustration, anger. I don't know what that, but that's the only
See,
well, that annoys me about myself. I'm like, why am I like that? I don't get it, but I know it's because my parents never showed anger. They kept it very buttoned up. I don't know what that looks like, and so when people get angry, I get.
People, you give it to her.
I get kind of scared or like, oh, it's drama. Just don't go there, but. It's not, but I'm just trying to, like, you know what I mean, label it and then try to almost think like, well, why don't I usually go there? Oh, because it's just don't even pay attention there. Just look over here and.
Right.
But I know it's because I'm trying to protect myself probably because I don't. That's scary territory for me, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want you to feel that. I want you to be expressed. So I'm like, oh, that's weird, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. When people talk with passion or express emotion, it's a lot of people just, it scares them or they just like, shut down.
That's the general, and here's the specific.
Yes.
So how is this for you now to hear Danielle say this to you? Sort of come into the present.
It confirms what I think.
Yeah.
And
what's the feeling that accompanies this?
The feeling is mainly I don't know if it's a feeling to feel understanding, but I do.
Kind of a thought.
Yeah, it's more of a thought, but in my body I feel like I understand it. In other words, it doesn't make me angry.
Right.
It doesn't make me upset. It just makes me feel, I understand that. I'm not sure how to gauge or how to behave any differently. But that's what I'm saying earlier, that's why sometimes, most of the time for me, I have to feel closer to the person before I can, let's have some common ground. Let's, get to know each other a little bit. Let's see if there's any familiar, feeling of family or like whatever. You don't have to have the same opinions of me and you don't have to agree with anything that I say, nothing. But before I would just really open up to someone, I would have to feel a closer a connection to the person.
Do you feel now in terms of that gauge of that sort of being okay or not quite okay?
I feel like I should still be careful. Because
how about with Mimi? Is the same with me?
Not necessarily with you, no. But I feel like she's very sensitive, extreme. Not that you're not sensitive, in different ways.
I call him insensitive.
No, I said I believe that you are very sensitive.
Don't even call it. I'm just kidding.
But I feel like, I don't know. I don't want her to feel. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable.
Well, she does feel uncomfortable.
I know.
So notice how that is for you, rather than going, well, that's not what I usually do, or do. But see what it's like for you in this moment that she's uncomfortable. Like, see if you can just take a pause and sit with the fact that she's a little uncomfortable, and see in this moment what this is for you, without going to the, oh, well, this is why I don't, or I need something else. Just see if you're willing to sit with this fact.
And then see how it feels?
Yeah,
is that what you're telling? Is that what you're saying? Again, it's more thinking instead of feeling. I want to talk with her more so that she doesn't feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's difficult for you to sit with this place of her discomfort. So see if you can just, if you're willing to sit a little bit more, breathe and be with yourself in this place where this is uncomfortable for you, being with her discomfort.
I don't feel as anxious. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But you still feel a little anxious.
yeah, I still feel a little anxious.
So can you name to her the anxiety? I'm anxious. What that is?
Probably I want to fix it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the solution. See if you can dig a little more. What is the anxiety? I'm going to lose connection with you. You're not going to like me. I'm not going to like you. Can you see?
Yeah. Yeah, that you would lose connection.
Okay,
Of
but
course,
personalize
if the
this.
person-
I would lose.
I would lose
with you.
connection. I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, that's the anxiety, is that I would lose connection with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to invite you to take even a little step inside that.
Okay.
So see if you're willing to tell her something about the place that you are losing connection with her, that you're disconnecting from her. That's kind of challenging, but if you're willing to look at that, articulate it,
Say it again.
where is that's what you're afraid of happening, is
Right.
losing the connection. So I'm inviting you to notice where you have lost the connection. In other words, where you have disconnected from her already. There's a little bit somewhere where you've lost the connection and there's disconnection, but the you in there is that you've moved out of connection.
I've moved out of connection.
Yeah.
In other words, yeah, I've decided to not.
A little bit somewhere now in this relationship, in this little process.
Yeah, I've decided to step back a little bit. Is that what you're
I've
saying?
disconnected from you
Yeah.
or something. See if you can put that into the I-thou language. I noticed that in this place or in that comment or with this tone, I disconnect from you. Or as I hear you talking about.
When I hear you say that, my first inclination is to disconnect, or that I'm losing connection with you.
Mm.
But I don't really feel like I've lost connection with her. But when she says it, when I first hear it,
Right, okay.
yeah,
So when I
Yeah.
first hear it, I disconnect a little.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I step back.
So see if you can track the process for her.
Uh-huh.
Tell her. So I stepped back a little when I heard that, and now I'm stepping forward a little, or just say something about, help her understand your process.
Okay. So my process is that when I first heard you say that, I would step back and like, oh, I don't want her to get upset. I don't want her to be.
You directly.
I don't want you to get upset. I don't want you to feel like you need to go, like this and fear somewhere, or it's painful to hear. I don't want you to experience pain from anything that I'm saying.
Right.
So immediately I feel like disconnecting. Like I don't want her to feel any pain.
You keep it with you. Keep it
Her,
personal.
you.
And so you did disconnect?
Yeah.
Or
Just
did you?
momentarily I
Uh-huh.
did, but I guess I don't want to lose the connection, so I don't allow it to stay disconnected. I make the decision. I make the decision. Well, no, I want to be connected to you, so I'm not going to allow that to get into the way. Of having a connection with you.
Do you still feel like it affected the connection, that interaction?
Maybe I know it made it deeper actually, because now I understand something about you that I didn't know. So instead of me just thinking that, oh, she just doesn't want to talk about anything, I understand that there's a reason why, from your upbringing, there's a reason why you are, retreating somewhat. And so now that I hear that and I understand it, then I don't allow myself to disconnect from you, because that's,
Right. Because you have that understanding.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How does that feel for you? Did you talk about that?
It makes me feel closer because it lets me know now that she cares.
You tell her.
That it lets me know now that you care to keep the connection going and willing to work through whatever that that was for you to come back and reconnect anyway, even though maybe part of you wants to just disconnect, and I don't know.
I just wanted to. Well, the only reason I would disconnect is because I don't want you to feel pain. So
tell us something about feeling pain. Give us some feedback about that, because she's very protective of you about that. So fill her in something about the actuality of how that is for you.
I guess I wouldn't describe it as pain. When I'm experiencing you speaking passionately, what happens for me is just that I think I just label it as just drama or something, and I just wonder, why can't we just not focus on that and just be at peace? That's what I do, and I realize how silly that seems, but that's what I do, probably to avoid feeling any anger, and again, I'm a sponge, so then I might absorb any anger or just whatever what I think is I label as negative, even if it's just passion. So maybe I'm just trying to protect myself, but that's the way it affects me. It's not painful. It's just kind of like like kind of trying to protect myself, I guess.
right.
Don't know if that makes sense, or if that's a feeling really. But
Yeah.
fear of what might happen. What happens if you get more passionate, stand up, and then something might happen. Like, what's gonna happen? Someone might get hurt. I don't know.
This is gonna get out of control.
Yeah. Like, I believe that, but that's what's going on.
Well, to articulate that, in a way, it sounds like you might say to her, well, for a moment you were out of control, from my point of view, and that was scary, or, that's some, like, again, it's the fear of getting out of control, but then there's the actuality, so I keep wanting to bring you to the actuality and say something about that. To me, it looked like you were out of control for a moment and I was freaking out, or that, something about the substance of that experience.
I suppose maybe it's hard to admit. Yeah.
Sure. It was hard for her to admit that.
Right, because again, I'm trying to play nice too.
Yeah, I know. You're both trying to protect each other, and
Well, she wasn't out of control. She was trying to get out of control.
but for her, it was out of control.
Yes, that I agree.
From my perspective.
From your perspective, that was the over the control
I
barrier.
suppose so.
Yeah.
Right.
That little bit of.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So I'm inviting you to say something to her directly.
Okay.
When I experienced you as out of control, then I felt.
Right. Yeah. When I experienced the fire.
Your
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt out of control, and I wanted to calm it down, or I wanted to, I'm trying to remember how the feeling.
Calm you down.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to calm you down.
I wanted to control you, in other words. Right?
Right.
So tell her.
Okay. So then I wanted to, control you. Sounds funny.
Well, it sounds funny, but it is your experience, isn't it? Isn't that what we're talking about?
Huh. I guess I hadn't seen it like that. Yeah.
Calming
Right.
someone down, it's kind of like
Yeah.
controlling.
Absolutely. It is. Well, what I really want to do is go crawl in a hole.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the other way. Yeah.
That's actually what that's right. So I didn't experience wanting to calm her down. I I wanted to let her be, but I wanted to save myself and go run into a hole. So that's really what was happening.
In other words, rather than control you, I'm withdrawing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I would cut the connection.
So tell us.
And then I would be cutting the connection. Which I don't really want to do, but the scared part of me does.
But if you keep talking like that.
Yeah.
This is the authentic communication, you know, so busy trying to protect or not wanting to go there, but that's a way of not noticing when you do go there, or noticing what is here, which is the substance of the communication, actually. Like that is what's available for contact.
Yeah.
So while we're all scurrying away from it, you know, the quality of actually connecting around what's difficult reduces. So,
Right. And I'm noticing, like, when you're just being very honest with me, and you're kind of wanting to hold back, but then you're just telling me, I'm like, okay, bring more, I don't care. But then as I'm telling you my truth, I'm horrified. Like, I'm just, my whole face is hot. I'm like, I hate this. I don't want to tell you anything. You're fine. You're perfect. Like, so it's like, it's hard for me to express that.
Yeah.
But yet you're still sitting here and you seem fine. So. And I don't know, are you fine? Like, how do you feel?
Oh yeah, I totally understand it.
Yeah. Does it make you want to shut down more, or is this actually...
No, but I do notice that even with myself, if I'm, sitting with some group of people and they start, ranting and raving too much about the world, I'd want to run and jump in a hole too. If they get on to the, the outer limits of, everything's a conspiracy thing, then I enjoy it to a degree, but then after a while, I just want it to stop.
Right.
And I'll even avoid those people if when possible. So yeah, I know, I totally understand it. Yeah. I don't know if I totally understand it, but
Right.
I do understand it. Yeah.
So how's this for you, watching this process?
For me, well, it reminds me how I need to be careful sometimes how I express myself. I don't want to overstep on anybody's toes. At the same time, sometimes it's not, you just, the toes are already underneath my feet when it's landing, so there's so much I can do. It's always like trying to find a balance, how can I be myself in real-time communication. And I find often I have to explain myself a lot. Now that's not my intention, and if the other person can hear it, it's fine, but we do run our stories, so it's difficult when trying to communicate with someone not to run my story, and it's even more difficult to just trying to worry that they're not going to run their story, but they will, so. But I guess for me, like my friends, it's like that, you get into a misunderstanding and then you talk, and then you fight, and then you resolve it, and then you get closer together. And then you kind of accept it. So the next time it happens, you're not even going to talk about it because you know your friend. Or rather than being a constant explanation and constant checking in. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? If you're not, you have to tell me, And then we talk about it. But just what it reminds me is how much I hold myself back in communication because I'm trying to protect the other person, Or you look at it on the other perspective, it's like how much responsibility I'm trying to take about how I communicate so they don't get upset, It's just impossible not to get upset when you have interactions with someone will step in someone's toes even if you don't want to by mistake,
So what's your gauge, with these two women here and the little group? Like if you put even a numerical gauge or something on it, 1 out of 10, 10 is that you feel completely free to say anything, and One is that you're very careful and constrained. Like, what do you notice is your gauge here so far and your experience?
Just very low key. Like, like sometimes I have these impulses. Take some friends from abroad and put them in a Greek vacation setting with everybody going wah, wah! And you get the baptism by fire, and then you come out and says, "Oh, okay." So for me, it's very low key. This kind of interaction. It's not like. I was like, yes, okay. it's like it's not confrontational, you know. It's honest, you know, which is important, and sometimes that's missing when you get too impulsive and into your own emotions. You know, you can miss the honesty. I don't know. It's like sometimes I feel like a question I ask sometimes myself in communication with people you love and you care about is why my story becomes more important than the love. You know, and that's where you need to have a conversation. You know, if your story becomes more important than, because when you love the other person, it's just like you engage in more in the connection, and then the little stories around it doesn't matter. You just still need to keep the connection. You know, I don't even know if I'm explaining that right, but.
So if you were to again come right into this relationship here, and if you were to unrestrict yourself a bit, you know, what's one thing that you might more spontaneously bring forward to one of these women or to both of them? What is something that you would?
But the spontaneous is spontaneous. Now you
well, that's true. However, I'm inviting you to notice without it being completely stream of consciousness. But I'm inviting you to pay attention to.
Well, one thing I do a lot of in this, like it's really difficult to hold back, is teasing. You know, just
okay, so if you were to tease one of them, you know,
she had a bit of an experience of that. It's like, why are you enjoying this? I said, yes, I'm enjoying this. Why are you doing this? Yes, because I'm enjoying it.
Okay, so if you know, experiment a little right now, what's something you'd like to tease them about?
They have to be in conversation. Like I was holding myself back. You see, we have a camera here, we have a coordinator. It's like.
But if you were to kind of come in retrospectively, what's one of the teasing places for you?
Probably like now I'll do like this. I'll mirror here.
Don't
really. So
mimic. Is that
mimic, like mirroring. You know. That's one way to do it.
So how's that for you? That you just kind of like.
Oh, it's very familiar.
Okay, so you've given the feedback. Like
it's very familiar to me because.
And so just given the comfortable, okay, not okay feedback, just explicitly.
I'm comfortable with it. I think it's hysterical and people mimic.
Great. Okay, so there's a green light. So keep going. What else would you pick up to tease, either in what they said or how they are, or
how they are? Like, well, let's say if they say, well, I'm feeling more relaxed now, and their hands are like this. I say, oh, you're more relaxed now. You know, that's your relaxed state. So
can
just creating more awareness of.
Can you imagine the tense state?
Can you show us the tense state? It's like, or I would tease her this weekend, and she punches really. It's like she needs to control her because it's like she gets angry and just goes.
It's not that harsh.
Yeah, she's no, just don't type. It's really strong. And she was even very proud when I told her that. I said, oh, did I hurt you? She said, yeah, I know, I have very strong hands. That was her response. So, I mean, I would use I would challenge on the truth that the person speaks. Or if, like, say, one of my favorite, like, again, it's difficult to say it, to bring it here because it's kind of, there's nothing much happening right now. You know, it's like, if I knew that when they were talking, then I would have done something. I did have the impulse a couple of times, just jump up and do something to startle them, you know. But one of my favorite things is like you can imagine me like I like keeping the house clean, and so if we finish eating, I will be washing the dishes. I have guests, I will speak. So there's a lot of instances like I'm washing the dishes and we're talking about guests, and I have women around me, not the ones that know me very well, but for example, like here I just tease her like that a couple of says, well, this actually is a woman's job, it's not a man's job, and I would say that especially while I'm washing the dishes and while I'm very comfortable doing it, and I just see them go
to provoke.
It starts boiling. So why shouldn't you do this? I don't understand. It's like, and yeah.
So you like stirring the pot.
Yes,
being a troublemaker.
Since very young, yes.
Provoke,
It's the jester, like the Joker in the.
Like provoking people.
Yeah, and I keep reminding myself, like the Joker is the only one that can tell the king the truth without losing its head. But sometimes you will have to be worried about losing your head when you do these things.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little invitation.
Yeah.
So what's one piece of truth that you'd like to offer these two women right now? Just, from what you know, what you've experienced. Give them a piece of truth.
She cannot even breathe. How can I say my truth? She said that and she goes...
but she's also said she's given
even
the
the prospect.
She's given the green light to you, so maybe that's true. And
I'm just breathing.
Cognitively,
yeah. So you see, it doesn't work, like for me, it works like a joke,
Right.
If I don't want to tell anybody a truth, unless I'm in the conversation, just feels like it. Like right now, it's like, what's my place to say to any of these women my truth? But what can I say? It's just chill, like relax a bit, hug a bit. It's just I don't know what else to say in this case, because it's like a lot of conversation. That's why. Before, so it's like. Why I wanted to jump and start, because there's a lot of conversation about an issue that can be resolved with just playing. If you play a game or you get I was having scenes of everybody's playing a game on the beach, we're playing frisbee or we chasing each other around, and then we have the conversation, which is already like melted the ice a lot. So a lot of for me, it's sometimes the conversation goes there where the interaction is to be somewhere else. It can be in the physical, you can talk for months, how difficult it is for me to let go and hug, and then you just start hugging and see what happens, and you get a bit scared, and it's like what you said, I have experienced that with you actually. It's like you were saying, I want to hug you and shake you, I want to hug you. I have this teddy bear in my sister said, should I do it? So yeah, but especially if you're an adult, you can get misunderstood so quickly. Even if you play the same game that they play. I had a friend that she was a colleague of mine, but she was English. But she was also like, she had done a lot of work with this. So the first time, the way I met her, I was out in the reception where I was in the place where I was studying, and I get a slap on my ass, and I turn around and say, how dare you slap me? I said, just kidding. Just thank you for giving permission. But then we find ourselves years after that, and she is in Greece and playing around. She's having fun on the beach and stuff like that. And as we were having fun, she goes, PAP! And she slaps me really hard. And I turn around and I did the same thing. And she hurts because I hurt too. And she starts giving me all this shit stuff. And I say, whoa, wait a minute, you just started. So it wasn't that hard. I said, look, I have marks, you don't. So mine was less. So, it's like, I often encounter that, it's like you play in the same level or playing, when you play, you get injured. It's often that the case, you can get hurt, because you're trying to get away while I'm tickling you, and you bang your hand on the wall behind you. And then there's blame. Why did you do that? Because now you see I'm hurt. So I have ended up, when I play fight, I'm watching the person's heads, the person's elbows, and my hands are like this while I'm tickling, so they don't injure themselves. So yeah, that's what cuts me a bit from interact. But thank God I have some friends that I can be like that too.
Right, so it sounds like you kind of like a little, I mean, I'd call it a little dangerous edge, a little risky edge.
No, it's not dangerous.
Well, not potentially. There's an edge there.
Yes, there is an
There's
edge.
an edge where someone could get hurt or
Yeah.
someone could be upset.
Yeah, like
or
when you're trying to walk and you run, then it's the potential you can
Yeah.
fall down and
So
shit.
you're a bit of a risk taker in that sense. You kind of like, it sounds like the excitement of the kind of the risk, the jumping in, the
The
provoking.
jumping it's risky. I don't like the risk. That's why I try to hold my. I don't like the potential of someone feeling injured by.
Right, so you're afraid of the impact, and
Yeah.
yet there's a part of you wants to come
Play,
forward.
yeah.
Right, so there's this sort
Yeah.
of two.
So I met
forces.
now. I spent a weekend. I went to Ojai to babysit this girl, and I canceled other appointments because my friend called me last minute. And the only reason is because this girl, when I tickle her, do things to her, she goes, "More, tickle me more." So I'm tired. So her mom, before she left us, she goes, "Okay, both of you, no means no." Because we don't play that game. And I say, yes, you're right, especially for future relationships. And no bruises. Now, when she says no bruises, she doesn't mean only me not bruising her daughter, because that happens. She means also her daughter bruising me, because that happens. But we're very excited, both of us, when we play. So this it's it's a level of engagement that is I miss a lot. I only have with very few people in my life. And yeah, it's dangerous in a sense that you have to be careful, because it's not about. I don't have a mindless game, you know, or not the idea of fun that can really, you know. I think a little bit like you think for events.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I'm everywhere, like I can see this plug is on the
Yeah.
flammable, or this, you know. It's I work like that. So the same when I play. So it's not a mindless game, you know.
Right.
At the same time, you do get bruised.
Mm-hmm.
It's danger. I don't know. I mean, your skin. You know, if you do like this, it gets red. You know.
You accept that you'll get hurt, or
Me,
someone-
nah.
Yeah.
But the other. It is to find another person that can play in the same, so I don't have to. They don't feel over.
Mm-hmm.
Protective.
Yeah.
Okay, so having heard Theo talk about this is him and this is how he is and his parameters and dynamics, you know, what's your response? What happens for you? What gets evoked in you when you hear him? Give him some feedback.
Well, I have a difficult time playing. Period. You know.
I'm sure you.
Yeah. I always feel I can play if someone's playful, but I can't initiate play myself, or I don't. Let's put it that way. Of
Okay.
course, I could, but yeah. So that was very interesting to hear.
Okay, so there's the interesting. What's
Yeah.
the feeling though?
A feeling is
As you know, Theo, as you talk about yourself and play, my response is, what's the
I
feeling
wish
response?
I could be more playful.
So
That's
tell him,
if that's a
I
feeling.
wish I could be more like you. Or
I wish I could be more like you.
do that with you. Like give
Yeah.
it to him very personal, very interpersonal.
I wish I could play more, you know, just spontaneously that way, or recognize it in someone else that they want to play. They have to. I feel like they have to show me that they want to play before I, you know. So I wish I could feel it from the person.
Okay, so in a way you are feeling it because he's giving it to you. So
Right.
if you come
Well, he's
into,
telling me about
he's
it.
telling
I
you.
can't feel it in
you
him.
can't feel it in him.
No.
Okay, so give him some very personal feedback. I'd like to play with you, and I need to feel it a bit more. Like really tell him in a very attuned manner about yourself on the other end of him.
Just be careful what you talk.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to play with him.
But talk to him about the dynamic of that. Tell him about the do and the don't, and give him some fine detail. You know, I'm a bit wary.
I
but
hear
on
what
the
you're
other
saying
hand-
about, you know, because it does feel a little bit scary for me that, you know, I could get hurt playing
with you.
with you, and then it brings up, I had to watch my brothers and sisters and make sure they didn't get hurt while they were playing, and I had to be in charge of them playing, you know. So that's what it brings up for me. So I wish I could just be more playful myself and
Okay, so personalize that.
Okay.
I almost wish I could be more playful with you. See how that
Yeah.
feels to bring it directly.
I wish I could be more playful with you. I probably could be if you were, you know, if there was a banter back and forth. but I couldn't initiate it.
After you get the first 5-10 bruises, you can
Yeah.
get used to it.
yeah.
And
That's
tell
what I'm
your
saying.
father,
Yeah.
now you're going to see, is he still alive?
No.
Oh, well, in your prayers, tell him that even
Yeah.
the army allows 10% of fatality, you know, when you train people.
So what's it feel like to tell him that directly, to communicate that to
Oh, it
Theo?
feels good. It feels authentic, and it feels real, and it feels, present. And I would encourage you to be more playful.
With me.
With me.
Own it. That's
Yeah,
right,
with me. Yeah.
Okay.
Or anybody.
Oh, anybody?
Did
No,
you
with
No.
me.
It would be fun. It would
she's
be
not
fun.
certain. She's not certain
No, I'm
about
just
that.
saying in general, it'd be fun for me to even see him being more playful. Period.
So I'd like
Yeah.
to watch you be more playful with her.
Yeah.
Like that.
So I'm safe.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
yeah.
So say something about that.
Who's going to protect Danielle? Though? Danielle's going,
No, I'm scared for her too. I don't want her to get hurt.
Did anybody ask me?
Someone else.
I'm still,
theoretical.
You
I'm
want to ask
still in charge
Danielle?
of the play.
Right. Okay. So then maybe you can give him the contradictory you. You know, I'd rather you play with her because then I can feel a bit safer. But then I'm wary of that she give him
Yeah, it
some
just
of
brings
the-
up, it was bringing up all these images of watching my brother and sisters play, and I still see my little sister sliding down the banister head first without me knowing, and she landed on the ground, split her chin open, all of her teeth were moving around. We had to call an ambulance. We were in England, and I was supposed to be in charge. So I don't want you to get her, I want you to play with her, but I'm in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, don't get, I got to keep my eyes on them.
Yeah. That's right. That's the you as well in that.
Yeah. I'm sure she was having fun when she was sliding down, but
Not afterwards.
yeah.
So what happens for you when you hear her detail about
She's
this?
not ready to play.
But there's a part of me that wants to.
Yes. So I will start gently, like
But tell her.
I will start gently, like
With you.
tickling for 5 continuous minutes, or are you
That's-
ticklish? No.
Yes, that's probably
Oh,
too
yeah?
much, but 1 minute.
Cool. Cool, we can be friends.
Well, that's the contact. Yeah, 5 minutes
Yeah.
is too much. 1 minute could be okay.
I'm saying,
But
I
that's
said,
her-
Don't
friend.
encourage her. 5 minutes, I said minimum.
that's over the top.
I was just kidding. I don't know. It's just, I think what happens a lot was like if you start playing with someone else, then if the other person has permission, they jump in. But-
Okay, so you do have a bit of permission, but she's giving you the 1 minute permission.
Yeah, look,
Yeah.
this it might not even be physical. It's even the verbal kind of teasing and stuff like that.
Right.
Like even that.
I
it's-
enjoy
it's-
teasing.
Yeah. So that's like, it's like probably like, let's say we're in a social environment, and because of your age, you're not a child anymore. You want to play, whatever. Except if you initiate it. So if I see it,
Yeah.
then okay, I have permission.
Right.
But it's probably like a verbal play, like there's not political correct.
Okay, so
or
then
something
there's
that.
like
Right.
there's the like you're initiating, and there's the like you're initiating. So there's kind of a little bit of kind of
A
caution on
dance.
both your
Yeah.
parts about the initiation of it.
This is life experience. I am cautious.
Yeah, well, but you're both cautious. I'm just
Yeah.
pointing out what's happening in the relationship.
But there is but for me, I feel there is fun in that, even being cautious and just.
Okay, so tell him, give him
Yeah.
a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, so
he knows
for me,
that.
it's fun to be cautious and to watch the other person's reaction and see if they're going to be more playful or more teasing. I enjoy that stage of it too. It doesn't have to be just jumping right into
Yeah, no,
teasing.
of course
Yeah.
It's an easy, but
Easy, or it's just
no, how you call it?
yeah.
Easing in. How you call it? The expression when you go slowly. in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that means something different for me that it might mean to you. So it's
Right.
yeah. Yeah, I mean the basic way for me is in the interactions. Like if I like someone, is tease them, because if they cannot handle that,
Right.
I cannot be myself with them.
Right. So that's the principle. So here's some of the detail. You know, here's the detail with her of how that can work in contact. So that she's got a desire for it. She's a little scared of it. She'd like you to initiate, but she's also willing to be pushed a bit. So, you know, this is like the fine detail of where the contact edge can be between you. So you can bring in yourself, but it's a little modulated, but it's just not modulated in some blanket way. It's a very fine-tunely modulated way that she's letting you know how this can work at the edge, where it's not going to be too dangerous, but, you know, there's an important communication here.
So the new, like the wiser me, like it's older, will play with someone else, and then she's gonna get a bit jealous, and then she will want to come in. And then when she comes in, I get her in. Because in the old days, I would just go straight and I get in trouble, you know. There's no point for me. I would just want to play. I don't want to get in trouble all the time.
Well, that's your spontaneous, more, well, if I make a judgment, child self.
Yes.
And so, there's a modulation here of your bubbly, playful, provocative, you know, and don't care child self, and the you know, we can call it the adult self, where you're getting, you know, the fine detail of the communication and the attenuation of just how that's going to really work in relationship without her getting overwhelmed or just sort of falling dead. Okay, so what about you? Give some feedback to Thea.
Oh God. So for me, I notice how I feel like it could be dangerous. Like that's why I shy away from it. And I was trying to like figure out, well, why is it dangerous? But I guess I'm afraid that there might be sexual energy exchange, and I guess that scares me. And like, what does that mean for me, for, you know what I mean, our friendship and stuff. So like.
Okay, so great. So see if you can really personalize that. I'm afraid that you might get too sexual in your energy with me. Like really just put it there.
I'm afraid that you might get too sexual in our energy.
I might, you never know. What do you think? I'm going to make you comfortable?
I think with like most men in my past, it has been, it scares me. Like I've had, you know, past experiences where it's just too much aggressive energy. Even though I trust you and I'm like, you know, getting to know you as a friend. So you kind of challenge that for sure.
But up to now, you hit and kick more than me. Okay.
So how does that feel for you to hear that from her?
I'm aware of that.
You're aware of it. What's it feel in this moment to hear right now?
Damn it. I have to hold myself back.
Yeah, so tell her that. Tell her you're disappointed.
Damn it, I have to hold myself back.
At least you know he's a red-blooded male.
I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, maybe you can say something about yourself in there. Like,
Okay.
what does that do for you? You know, maybe you can tell Theo, well, where are you at with the sexual erotic dimension of the play?
Where am I at?
Yeah.
I totally, that came out of left field for me. I didn't think that at all. So, but I understand what you're saying, and I can see where, you know, that could be an issue. Yeah.
So what part of it is an issue?
Well, wait a second. Yeah, for you to own that.
For me,
well, where is that for you?
For me, it's not an issue.
Okay.
I don't feel that that you're teasing or that you're playing or anything would become sexual. No, maybe, but it could be with someone else, but I'm just saying the here and now with this person right here. So when I heard that, I was like, wow, I didn't even consider that.
Okay,
yeah,
true. So
yeah.
it could, you know, you didn't consider that, or it couldn't be.
Yeah.
What if you just locate yourself a little bit more and see what that would like for you? Like, see if you can kind of orient yourself around that. So I am not interested in that with you, or I could be a little bit interested, or what if you just like look at yourself in that domain? You know, if
She's
I
biting her lips.
But I don't feel. But if I don't feel that and I don't think it, you mean try to imagine it?
Well, Yeah, or consider where, because she's picking up something and you're not, and who knows what that's about. But I'm just inviting you to locate yourself a little bit about, well, if you do consider play in its erotic dimension with Theo, how is that for you? Like is that something you're just not interested in, or you don't want to know about, or you're fine for that to be like totally in the background, or it's just completely not interesting to you, that side of it, or
it's just, well, first of all, my brain doesn't work that way.
Right.
I don't think about sex relating to everything, you know. So I just don't.
Okay.
So it's hard for me to even go there.
So right. So then,
Yeah.
my play with him feels completely non-sexual in any way, and I can't even imagine how that could come into it. Something like that.
It doesn't feel physically sexual. No.
Right.
No.
Okay. And how is that for you to hear that?
Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, play can go many different directions. It can go to fight, to making love, to any kind of tangent. And it depends of who you're playing with.
You did jump in though, so there was a little something there. There was a little something.
Maybe I just didn't want her to be afraid. Like, okay, he's just a man, you know.
Yeah, see if you can just own a little bit that red-blooded male thing. See if you can, if you personalize that, even though it's not a domain that you kind of go to or something. But what's your energy in that? Just see if you can catch that spark for you rather than making it about her.
Well, I mean, men are sexual. I mean, men are sexual beings. Women are sexual beings.
So, but you said at least he's a red-blooded male. So, if you look at, for instance, if you're willing to do this, if you look at Theo and you say to him, at least you're a red-blooded male, and see what that feels like to say that to him.
Well, maybe I'm whatever, however he behaves.
So tell him directly. If you're willing to try it, just try that sentence to him and see what it feels like to say that.
At least, what do you mean? Just say what I said?
Yeah, at least you're a red-blooded male. Tell him directly.
At least you're a red-blooded man.
What does it mean?
It's just like an English saying that, you know, just means you're very masculine.
Okay, so what do you feel on the other end of him being a red-blooded man?
I feel like that's normal.
That's your judgment.
Yeah.
What's the feeling, though? Then you kind of just look at him for a moment as the red-blooded man.
Right.
What's the feeling that you have on the other end of a red-blooded man?
Happy. I mean, just, I don't, yeah.
So tell him something about that. I enjoy your maleness, or see if you can...
okay, that's true. That is true. I see where you're going. I enjoy that about you, that you are a man, you know, in your male body, behaving like a man, and acting like a man, and talking like a man, and, you know, and feeling like a man.
And on the other end of that, I feel...
On the other end of that, I feel, well, maybe that makes me feel more female, like, okay.
Maybe, see if you can go look.
It makes me feel more female because you are holding the space of a man.
Good. So if you're willing to,
Yeah.
come into the moment and feel your femaleness in relationship to him in this moment. Just see what that's like. To feel that, to be present with that in this moment. Just have that little contact. There he is in all his maleness, and it allows you to come into femaleness. Just notice how that is for you. How that feels in your body.
Well, it feels empowering. Yeah. Maybe it gives permission for me to be female.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what comes up for me. Is that I find myself having to be a man in the world.
Yeah. So here's a place right here where you can be more the woman. So take this moment and just, if you can let yourself
it feels good.
enjoy that.
I am enjoying it.
Then see if you can make that personal statement to him. I'm enjoying feeling like a woman on the other end of you.
I'm enjoying feeling like a woman in the presence of a man, you know, in the presence of you as a man. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So what's happening for you? Like, you know, I've had the little side conversation, so back to you.
Sorry.
And the... Oh no, don't. I want you to apologise.
I know.
appreciated that.
It makes me happy to
Yeah.
see her make that connection.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have done that as well, and I do tend to do that. I go into my kind of more male, and you know, when I worked full time in corporate America, you know, you kind of take on the role, and it's very male oriented. And then where's the female go? I don't know. And then you know, not having that support, and then not knowing what that looks like, and then just to like rest your shoulder like she did on you earlier. It feels amazing. So it's just really beautiful to watch that connection. Or that, yeah. You saw that.
And if you come back to you now,
I
and
knew you were gonna say that.
I'm wary of, you know, your energy getting too sexual with me. So see what else you might say about that to Theo. What you might tell him about yourself in just a little more nuance.
I guess it's just adding to what I was saying before. It's just my past, which I never really want to bring to any present friendship or relationship or anything. But men have been pretty much just dangerous zone for me. Even when I try to make friends with my male friends, it never works. And so if I try to keep the friendship, like, interesting dynamics happen where it just becomes sexual. Like there's never, you know, I mean, I people say, well, it's just men for you. And I'm like, okay, you know, it's men. But I guess for me, my experience has been the predator kind of energy. And it, you know, it's not comfortable. That scares me. Not saying that's you at all. In fact, I don't find that at all. I don't. And it feels so innocent. And that's why I'm like, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? This is new. This is different. I don't understand. Like, I don't feel that with you. But then, of course, there's still that, you know, baggage or whatever in my past.
Okay, so if you would be willing to, if you can recognize something,
go ahead.
can you name something of your predator in relationship to her? So if that's something that you can locate.
Predator.
Yeah, well, she's talking about, I mean, I think you can get some version of that.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to name something with her, so she can actually locate where it is, because she's doesn't experience it, but she's afraid of it. So I'm inviting you to kind of bring that out and say something to her about, well, here is the part of me that's a bit of a predator with you.
Okay. Like dessert. I'm sorry, I can't resist.
Yeah, that's it. No, well, that is his way of doing it. You know,
Right.
There's a little bit of that. Did you feel that?
Danielle, muffin. Cupcakes.
Oh God. Let me think. I mean, and he's joking, so it's hard.
No, you don't know.
I
I may be joking, but behind the joke can be something real.
Well, yeah. In any joke, there's a little sliver of something.
Yes.
You know, no matter how
Well, you're a
funny.
beautiful woman. You're attractive. You're cute. You're clever. You're blonde, but it's okay.
So yeah, within the joke that he's being very playful about, he's also he's
Onto
softening.
the edge.
He's softening it.
I knew it.
There's an edge.
There is an
Yes.
edge, yeah. So how just so you know, I invited him to bring it forward, and he did it in that way. So I'm inviting you to notice what is it like to encounter that edge. And tell him directly.
I didn't even know this was here. I guess it's scary, and it feels weird saying that as an adult woman. Like,
So even personalize it more. I'm a little scared of you, or I'm a little scared of that part of you.
okay, I'm a little scared of that part of you.
Okay. I can understand that. Cupcakes. No, oh, look. Okay, look. So I have been with women all my life, okay, and beautiful women. So, of course, I'm straight male. There is going to be some sexual energy as well, but for me, this energy is like if there's not a response from the other person, it's non-existent. Because for me, the way I see things, a woman is not an object. So unless there is equivalent of that, then this is something I need to work with in myself. Now, if there is a response, then other things can happen. So I understand what you're saying, because I have seen like there is an entitlement sometimes when people feel this energy. It's like what you see sometimes, like victims of rape are blamed for not for being too even if they did something that was out of bounds in the society they live, they were too revealing too much or whatever. It doesn't give permission from someone else just because someone is aroused by that to violate the boundaries. It that's not okay. So if you're scared of me because I did something specifically, then you tell me. If you're scared because of your past experience, then again we can have a conversation. But seeing you as a beautiful woman doesn't mean I'm going to do something that you are not okay with. And it will spoil the relationship, because the friendship is how we're starting. I don't know, it just this weekend some thoughts came in. But my thing is like I value you as a person. So the rest is, if it's not, it cannot be explored. I don't know even. I cannot tell you, I fancy you as a woman. And like I say, yes, there's an attraction, but that can be play. I have a lot of friends that nothing happened, and there's like a slight attraction, but none of us wanted to move. There wasn't even a conversation. It just naturally just evolved in a friendship. And there's this maybe sexual tension sometimes and sexual jokes, but not enough from both sides to something to happen. So that's a risk you have to take.
Okay, so how do you feel as he gives his
So much safer, and just like so much relief. Yeah. Like it didn't feel like it took much. It was just like, oh, okay, that's where you stand with that. And I just really admire that in you. Because I have many examples of other ways of being. So as a man, I really admire.
Yeah. It's not, again, it's a preference. Like it's the way I am. It's not something I have ever taken credit for. It's just this is what I like. This is what attracts me. This is what if there's no desire from both parts, it's a different kind of holding you do.
Good. Okay. Well, it's probably start winding down. So, I'm really appreciative of all your willingness to kind of be a little pushed by me into the, I keep steering you into the, as they say in Gestalt, the here and now, I and thou, to really take what's being talked about in more general terms and sort of really pay attention to the, as I say, the contact boundary as it exists between you. And in doing so, you move towards a more intimate, I would describe, a conversation, which has more of you in it and more of the other person and more of what's present. And that's always a risk, and you've taken those risks, and as a result, sort of, I think, gone to a deeper level. That's how it looks to me. And I appreciate all of you taking those risks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So how's it been for you? Just, say a couple of things about how you've experienced this process.
I really enjoy relating authentically and just saying what's there, and like doing it on my own is kind of hard, but then having this facilitation really helps a lot, and it is just freeing to be able to communicate like that.
For me, it's always more difficult when I bring it outside of the context of the interpersonal relationship. Like, I can have this conversation much easier with one-to-one than if it's like I'm in a group and I have to expose myself in a group.
No. So this kind of number is good for this sort of conversation for you.
Yeah, I mean, I have been in bigger groups for long periods, but I prefer the one-to-one contact, and I'm not afraid. Like, of course, I will find my edges in every internet, but it's easier for me to just really see if in relationship is important. Just talk with the person and not to expose in a group, and even thinking like, oh, someone will be watching this for the next 10 years. I wasn't thinking of it, now I'm thinking. Did I sign a paper before we started?
What about you?
I was just thinking about just meeting people and having conversation and connecting with people, and everybody coming to the table with a bunch of stuff, all of their sensitivities and, their childhood, and just everybody coming to the table with all of that. And it's so easy to be misunderstood, or take a joke wrong, or to take a, one-liner incorrectly or whatever. I enjoyed the interaction, and also your pushing to keep personalizing it and keep going deeper into it, and but in being mindful of everyone, and to stay mindful that everyone is sensitive and coming to the table with all their stuff. It's not that easy to communicate authentically.
Yeah, that's right. It's risky.
It's risky, yeah.
What's the worst thing that happened?
Well, that's right. So what happens here is you do it, and then you see, and there it is, and that's the experience. That's part of me pushing, encouraging, supporting you to take those risks, to find out what does happen when you step into something more authentic and more particular. Good. Well, thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.